Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Dr. Ruby and today's class is on Piaget's theory of cognitive development. In our previous classes, we have covered the meaning, nature, scope and importance of educational psychology. We have also explored Pavlov's classical conditioning, Skinner's operant conditioning, and Watson's behaviorism. We have further taken class on the difference between classical and operant conditioning so that you are thorough with these theories and know the difference between the two. You can find the links to those videos in the description below. In today's class, we will break down Piaget's cognitive development theory into simple terms with examples so that you can gain a clearer understanding of how children's thinking evolves at different stages. If you are yet to subscribe to this channel, please subscribe now and press the bell icon to get notified every time I upload a new video. Now, let us start by understanding what cognitive development is. Cognitive development is all about how our thinking changes over time. It is the growth and refinement of our abilities to think, understand, reason, solve problems, and remember things. And this is not just about getting more information into our head, it's about how our thinking processes evolve as we mature. For example, think about a baby. At first, they might just react to sensory experiences like the sound of a bell or the taste of milk. They don't yet understand complex ideas like cause and effect or past and future. But as they grow old, their ability to process these concepts get more sophisticated. They start to realize that crying can get them what they want, or that a hidden toy still exists even if they can't see it. All these changes, this progress, is what we mean by cognitive development. Understanding this is crucial, especially for educators and parents, because it helps us see where a child is and in their thinking journey. With this understanding, we can provide the right support to help them grow. Now, moving into Piaget's work, we need to first understand some of the core concepts that form the foundation of his theory, which are schemas, assimilation, accommodation, and equilibration. These are like the building blocks of his theory. So, now let us break them down. Think of schemas as mental frameworks or blueprints that helps us organize and interpret information. They are like little file folders in our brain where we store information about different experiences and objects. For example, if a child has a schema for a dog, it might include traits like 4 legs, fur, and barks. So when they see a new dog, they recognize it as a dog because it fits their existing schema. Next, assimilation. Assimilation is when we take in new information and fit into our existing schema. It's like adding a new node to an already existing file folder. For example, when a child sees a small fluffy dog, they might instantly recognize it as a dog because it matches their schema of a dog. The 4 legs, fur, and barking. They are using what they already know to understand something new. Next, accommodation. Sometimes new information doesn't quite fit into our existing schemas, and this is where accommodation comes in. Accommodation is when we change our schemas or create new ones to incorporate this new information. Imagine a child sees a cat for the first time and calls it a dog because it also has 4 legs and fur. When they are corrected, they adjust their schemas to differentiate between dog and cat. This is accommodation, modifying their understanding to accommodate new experiences. Next, equilibrium. Equilibrium is the process that balances assimilation and accommodation to create a stable understanding. When our experiences align with our schemas, we feel balanced and in a state of equilibrium. But when something doesn't fit, we feel confused, which pushes us to learn and create a new balance. For example, when children learn that not all four-legged animals are dogs and that some are actually cats, they go through a period of confusion, disequilibrium, until they adjust their schemas and restore equilibrium. These core concepts are like the foundation of a house. They support everything else in Piaget's theory and explains how children build knowledge from their experiences. Now, let us take a moment to talk about the man behind this groundbreaking theory, Jean Piaget. Jean Piaget was a Swiss psychologist who initially started his career in natural sciences. His shift towards psychology was sparked by his curiosity about how children think differently from adults. He noticed that children of different ages consistently make different types of mistakes on cognitive tasks, leading him to believe that their thinking was fundamentally different. Piaget's work was groundbreaking because he was one of the first to suggest that children are not just mini adults who know less. Instead, they think in completely different ways. He proposed that cognitive development is not about acquiring more information, but rather about a fundamental transformation in how we think and process information as we grow. His theory laid the groundwork for modern child psychology and education, influencing everything from classroom teaching methods to parental guidance strategies. So, what exactly is Piaget's theory of cognitive development? In simple terms, Piaget proposed that children move through 4 distinct stages of cognitive development. Each of these stages represent a different way of thinking and understanding the world, and they occur in a fixed order. Importantly, Piaget argued that all children go through these stages in the same sequence, but the age at which they do so can vary. The stages are more than just milestones. They represent qualitatively different way of thinking. As children move from one stage to another, they don't just know more, they think differently. These stages are the sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational stages. Now, let us understand each of these 4 stages. The sensory motor stage. This is the first stage of cognitive development, covering the first 2 years of a child's life. During this time, infants learn primarily through their senses, seeing, touching, hearing, and tasting, and their motor activities. They begin to understand the world by coordinating sensory experiences like seeing or hearing with physical actions. This is a period of rapid cognitive growth where babies transition from reflexive instinctual actions at birth to the beginning of symbolic thought towards the end of the stage. One of the most critical developments in this stage is object permanence. The understanding that objects continue to exist even when they are out of sight. Before this concept is developed, if you hide a toy under a blanket, the child will think that the toy has simply disappeared. However, as they grow, they start searching for the hidden toy, indicating they understand it still exists. This milestone generally emerges around 8 to 12 months and is foundational for memory development. Next is the cause and effect relationship. Infants learn that their actions can cause things to happen. For example, if they shake a rattle, it makes a sound. This realization is crucial as it forms the basis of understanding causality, which is essential for later complex reasoning and problem-solving skills. Now, Piaget further divides this stage into 6 sub-stages to provide a more detailed picture of how cognitive skills evolve in infancy. Reflexive schemas, which is 0 to 1 month. Newborn reflexes such as sucking and grasping are the primary means of interaction with the environment. Primary circular reactions, 1 to 4 months. Infants start to repeat pleasurable actions centered on their own body like sucking their thumb. Secondary circular reactions, which is 4 to 8 months. Action aimed at reproducing interesting effect in the environment, like shaking a rattle to hear the noise. Coordination of secondary circular reactions, which is 8 to 12 months. Combining learned behaviors such as using a stick to pull a toy closer. Tertiary circular reactions, which is 12 to 8 months. Experimentation and creativity, like dropping objects from different heights to see what happens. Finally, mental representation, which is 8 to 24 months. Here, the ability to create mental image of objects and actions happen. This allows for problem solving without trial and error. Now, let us look at the pre-operational stage, which is 2 to 7 years. At this stage, children begin to engage in symbolic play and learn to manipulate symbols, but they don't yet understand concrete logic. This stage is characterized by the development of language and imagination. As children start to represent objects and events with words, images, and drawings. However, their thinking is still very much intuitive and egocentric. They have difficulty seeing things from perspectives other than their own. One of the key characteristics of this stage is egocentrism, the inability to differentiate between one's own perspective and that of others. A classic example of egocentric thinking is Piaget's 3 mountain task, where a child is asked to choose a picture that shows what a doll would see from another perspective. Children in this stage typically choose the picture that shows their own view, demonstrating that they cannot yet conceptualize viewpoints different from their own. Now, another characteristics at this stage is animistic thinking, where children believe that inanimate objects have feelings, thoughts, and intentions. For example, a child might think the moon is following them during a walk, or that a teddy bear feels sad when they're left alone. Now, this stage has also 2 substages. One is the symbolic function, which is 2 to 4 years. At the beginning of this stage, children start to use language to represent objects that are not physically present. They can engage in pretend play, like using a banana as a phone or imagining a doll as a real baby. Next is the intuitive thought stage, which is 4 to 7 years. During this period, children become curious and ask a lot of why questions. Although they are beginning to use primitive reasoning, they still focus on one aspect of a situation and struggle with understanding the concept of conservation. Let us understand what conservation is. If you pour the same amount of water into 2 different shaped glasses, one short and wide and the other tall and thin, children in the pre-operational stage are likely to say the taller glass has more water because it looks fuller. They have not yet developed the ability to understand that quantity remains the same despite changes in shape or appearance. Now, moving on to the concrete operational stage, which is 7 to 11 years. This stage marks the beginning of logical and operational thought. In this stage, children start to think logically about concrete events. They begin to understand the concept of conservation, that quantity doesn't change even when its shape does, and can mentally manipulate information. However, their thinking is still very concrete. They struggle with abstract and hypothetical concepts. One of the significant developments in this stage is mastering the concept of conservation. Children begin to understand that altering an object's appearance doesn't change its fundamental properties. For example, if you flatten a belly of clay, it still has the same amount of clay as before, even though its shape has changed. This ability shows a significant step in logical thinking and understanding reversibility. Reversibility is the understanding that objects can be changed and then return back to their original form, For example, if a child understands that 4 plus 4 is equal to 8, they also understands that 8 minus 4 is equal to 4. This is a key development because it marks the ability to think through steps both forward and backwards. Another important development is the ability to decenter or consider multiple aspects of a problem rather than focusing on a single feature. For example, when sorting objects' size and color, children can simultaneously understand both dimensions, showing a more complex level of thinking. Now, children at this stage also learn to classify objects by multiple categories and arrange them in order by size, length, and other criteria. They develop skills for hierarchical classification, understanding the concept of subclasses and class inclusion. For example, dogs and cats are different kinds of animals. Now, coming to the formal operational stage, which is 12 years and beyond. This stage is the final stage of Piaget's theory and involves the development of abstract and scientific thinking. At this stage, individuals can think logically, not just about concrete experiences, but also about abstract and hypothetical situations. They can reason about possibilities, think about moral, philosophical, ethical, social, and political issues that require theoretical and abstract reasoning. One of the key characteristics of this stage is the abstract thought. Teenagers and adults at this stage develop the ability to think about abstract concepts that are not tied to concrete physical experiences. For example, they can consider ideas like freedom, justice, and equality without needing to tie these concepts to personal experience. They can engage in hypothetical reasoning and ask what-if kind of questions. Another key characteristic is the hypothetical deductive reasoning. This is the ability to systematically think about all potential outcomes for a given situation and deduce what is the best course of action. For example, in scientific reasoning, they can create a hypothesis, design experiment to test their ideas, and consider alternative explanations for their results. Moral reasoning. Adolescents at this stage also develop a deeper understanding of ethical and moral principles and can evaluate situations based on abstract principles of right and wrong. This development allows them to grapple with complex moral dilemmas like whether it is right to steal to feed a starving family. The ability to think about thinking, metacognition, also emerges during this stage. Adolescents and adults can reflect on their own thought process and understand different cognitive strategies for learning and problem solving. This skill is very important for self-regulation and effective learning throughout life. Now that we have understood the theory thoroughly, let us look at its educational implications. At the sensory motor stage, providing children with a stimulating environment filled with sensory experiences and opportunities for physical exploration is crucial. Toys that encourages exploration and cause and effect understanding, such as blocks, rattles, and simple puzzles are ideal. The pre-operational stage, it is essential to provide opportunities for symbolic play and hands-on activity. Visual aids, storytelling, role-playing, and the use of manipulatives like blocks and shapes can be particularly beneficial in helping children understand abstract concepts through concrete examples. During the concrete operational stage, teaching should focus on concrete, hands-on learning activities that allow students to manipulate and experiment with objects. Finally, at the formal operational stage, teachers should challenge students with complex problems, encourage debate, and engage them in critical thinking exercises. Project-based learning discussions around moral and ethical dilemmas, and opportunities for independent research can all help students develop higher order thinking skills. So that was all on Piaget's theory of cognitive development. I hope you liked the video. Please let me know in the comment section, and also any topic you would want me to cover in the upcoming classes. Thank you for watching and see you in the next class.